Namaste and welcome to another episode on the topic of experience. Now, in some of the earlier videos, I have mentioned the process of learning, where you gather information, data through your senses, and you analyze it, you question it, you test it, you validate it, that becomes your knowledge. And when the knowledge is ingrained in you, it sinks in you, then you begin to experience it. Use that knowledge as wisdom and experience the idea. For example, if you like listening to music, certain kind of music, and you start hearing it, and then you are thinking that, okay, this is music, it kind of feels pleasant. And what are the notes in it? What are the major notes, minor notes? If there is rhythm, how many beats per cycle, and when is the sum coming, and what is the start? What instruments are being used, and all this analysis you are trying to understand. Then you say, oh, this feels good. Now, when you begin to feel good is when you stop analyzing, stop separating the various aspects of music. And if it is a song, then you're trying to understand the meaning of words and which line is arranged. Is it rhythmic? Does it have the length and width of each line, and is it matching, and what is the topic? And you're thinking about lyrics. When you have understood the lyrics, you have internalized it, you have internalized the music, then you stop thinking. And that's when you begin to experience the music and its impact on you. And this process applies to just about everything you learn and you experience. So here are a few quotes on experience. So the first quotation is by J. Krishnamurti. When thought is completely silent, then there is a state of experiencing. I was just explaining to you this idea that thinking and experiencing does not go together. Thinking and knowing may go together. You want to know something, you are thinking about it, pros and cons and positive and negatives. You are doing an analysis. So that analysis is not the experience. After you have analyzed and you have confirmed the knowledge, then you stop thinking about it. It is part of you, it is ingrained in you. Then you begin experiencing. So that's what Krishnamurti is saying. When thought is completely silent, there is a state of experiencing. This quotation is a little bit subtle from Erwin Laszlo. We as individuals are not immortal, but our experience is. The traces of everything we have ever experienced persist, and they can be forever recalled. I'll read it again. We as individuals are not immortal, but our experience is. The traces of everything we have ever experienced persist, and they can be forever recalled. So there are two or three subtle points here. One is collective consciousness, which is that one person's experience, deep experience, is to some extent or to a large extent transferred to other life forms in that species. So if one group of individuals in a society learn something new, over time, without communicating to the other people in the same group, the rest of the group begins to learn it invisibly, indirectly. That's collective consciousness. Then there is subconscious and unconscious. And here the theory of Akashic field. Akasha, not sky, but Akasha is that which pervades in all objects. Everything has Akashic field in it. Even in the atom, the empty space between the particles circling the nucleus, there is space. That is also part of Akash. So Akasha is where all vibrations, all knowledge, and all experiences are immersed, and they exist forever, whatever forever means. So whatever you have experienced is present, and it can be retrieved or recalled at any time, anywhere. This may also lead to the theory of reincarnation, that when you are born again in whatever form, you inherit some of the prior life's experiences, leftover deep desires, etc. That's a separate topic. So these couple of ideas I thought I'll mention to you to help understand this, what is meant. We are individuals. We as individuals are not immortal, but our experience is. The traces of everything we have ever experienced persist, and they can forever be recalled. This one is by Joseph Campbell. There is unity in the universe, and a unity in our own experience. We can no longer look for a spiritual order outside of our own experience. He's talking about unity in the universe, of which we are a part. So whatever exists in the universe in terms of knowledge, experience, history, and how things evolved, the whole concise existence of everything is represented in the unity of the wholeness. So, the point here is there is unity in the universe and a unity in our own experience. In other words, our experience is as an individual, although we share with the collective consciousness and the subconscious and the Akashic field, all that I have mentioned. So, the unity in our own experience, we can no longer look for a spiritual order outside of our own experience. In other words, we cannot enter the experience of someone else and call it my experience. And suppose there is an evolved person, a sage, who is enlightened, to experience that level of wisdom and experience and enlightenment, we have to experience ourselves, maybe by learning from that guru, maybe sitting in the company of that guru will also help, but ultimately the experience of enlightenment, our spiritual experience, has to be the individual's own. I have to experience it myself before I am confident this is what it means and this is what I am experiencing. You are witnessing your own experience. So it's a beautiful quotation by Joseph Campbell. There is a unity in the universe and a unity in our own experience. We can no longer look for a spiritual order outside of our own experience. This short one by Stephen Wolinski basically confirms what the previous quotation was trying to convey. There is no experience that exists separate from the experiencer. In other words, for an experience to exist, there is an experiencer, the one who is experiencing. So an experiences by itself alone cannot exist unless there is someone experiencing it. Whatever the experience is. And not only experiencing, but understanding, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the information on which all these are based. So these are kind of an individual pursuit and an individual accomplishment. Here is a quotation by Swami Vivekananda. Experience is the supreme teacher. It makes knowledge useful. In other words, if you acquire knowledge and don't do anything with it, it's just academic topic and you know about it and you have not accepted it and you have not applied it. So experience is the supreme teacher. So only when you experience that knowledge without thought, it makes knowledge useful. Experience is the supreme teacher. It makes knowledge useful. And another short one by Aldous Huxley. Experience is not what happens to a man. Experience is not what happens to a man. It is what a man does with what happens to him. So in other words, experience is giving a practical dimension. Experience is not what happens to a man. In other words, experience does not happen to you. Information and knowledge can happen to you. Primarily information can happen to you. You are looking at it and you are collecting a lot of information. It is happening to you. But experience not what happens to a man. Experience is when you process the knowledge, when you imbibe that knowledge in yourself. So experience is not what happens to a man. Experience is what a man does with what happens to him. In other words, after experiencing something, it changes you and you do things differently. So this is what experience does to you. A more experienced man in any certain field will act differently than someone with no experience or little experience. So experience is what makes the difference. Here's the last one from Stephen Wolinski. All information defines and limits your experience of yourself. So this is kind of a caution not to rely entirely upon information. Go beyond it. Information defines and limits your experience. If you 100% rely on everything you see, of course most things you cannot see because your eyes are not designed that way. You cannot hear. Your senses cannot perceive everything that exists. So relying only on sensory perception and analysis of it, interpretation of it in your mind and in your thought, that does not help. All information defines and limits your experience of yourself. To experience yourself, that is beyond senses. Or you cannot look at your body or your face in the mirror and experience yourself. Just by looking at it or just by hearing the sound does not give you the experience of yourself. You have to go deeper. You have to learn how to concentrate and how to meditate. Thoughtlessness. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to coming back to you and discuss many other topics left to be done. Namaste.